Hello there, Manic Mercurian here, and in this video we are going to do a natal chart reading, as you can see here. And yeah, this will be fun. I've barely looked at this chart at all. I just kind of pulled it up briefly before starting to record. So let's just kind of bounce around and see what I can see here. Now, I would normally start with the basics. Actually, I'll just cover a little bit of the basics. So we've got first of all, I should say this is for Wednesday, May 17th, year 2000 at 8 o'clock a.m. in Tehran, Iran. And I know I'm not saying that right, but okay, so this person has Taurus Sun with Scorpio Moon and Gemini Rising. So already right there's kind of a lot going on. This person was born just before a full moon. So it was the morning of a full moon, I guess. The full moon would have actually happened like midday on this day. And this person's got Gemini rising. But before we get more into the basics, the first thing that really grabbed my attention was right here in Taurus. So of course we have the Sun in Taurus, but we also have Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus all in Taurus. So there's definitely an 11th house Taurus stellium, meaning a cluster of planets there. But these three planets are conjunct. So, I mean, this just is really crazy to me, especially because we have two sort of outer ish planets, Jupiter and Saturn, involved. And this is not an exact conjunction between the three of them, but it's very close. We've got Venus at 19 degrees Taurus, Jupiter at 20 degrees Taurus, and then Saturn at 21 degrees Taurus. I mean, okay, so this is a big deal. This is very rare. I mean, especially Jupiter and Saturn, they only conjoin every 20 years. So having that in your natal chart is something special to have. Also, Venus, which is an inner planet, so it's a more of a personality or personal planet. Having that conjunct that dynamic as well, having a triple conjunction is a big deal. So what this would mean in the chart is, first I'll just start with Jupiter, and it really means a lot of things. First, I'll start with Jupiter and Saturn. So combining Jupiter and Saturn's energies is extremely, it has great potential. It can be very strong, and that applies to experiencing it in a transit, or like in this case, experiencing it in a natal chart. And the reason why is because Jupiter and Saturn's energies are extremely complementary. Jupiter is very expansive. It's very idealistic. It's great for coming up with ideas or inspiration on, a new project or a big dream that you can start. It's good for, having the gall to get out there and go do something and be bold. And Saturn is almost the opposite. It's more conservative. It's more strict and disciplined, and it wants to make everything. It wants to make sure everything is realistic. Like, how are we actually going to do this? It's not so much interested in coming up with big ideas as it is in, being there every day and working toward a realistic goal and actually making something happen. So if you're combining both of those energies, you have both the idealism and the daring of Jupiter, but also the discipline and, the pragmatism of Saturn combining in one area. And for this person, for you, this is in the area of 11th house Taurus. So you're simultaneously idealistic but also disciplined in matters regarding 11th house Taurus. So Taurus has to do with how you make money. It's a very financial sign. So you could be very gifted with making money, with managing money, with being a manager, or I mean, this would really be great for a variety of different things. You could apply it many different ways. You could, I mean, it could almost be good for leadership just because you'd be so good at managing money. Or what else? What else? What else? It could be food related. Taurus loves food. It's all about like the things that support us: our food, our money, our resources. You could be very good at managing these things and having a flair for it, but also being disciplined and making sure that what you're starting in this area actually works. This can also have to do with online applications because 11th house does have connections with the internet and online. And so I don't know, it'd almost be good for being like running your own business online. managing finances online, or it could be culinary related or food related. I mean, really, there's a lot of different applications, like I said, but there's a great potential for making a big deal of money, or just working with finances. I'm not sure, but just in general, you would be sort of idealistic yet disciplined at the same time because of this conjunction. You would be, able to dream big, but in a way which is realistic, and you'll actually show up. Like it's easy to dream big and have this big idea of something you want to make happen, but then you also have to show up every day after that, and do these small steps every day to work toward it. And with Jupiter and Saturn combined, you have all of all of what it takes to make really big goals or aspirations come true. This is a really, I can't stress enough how kind of rare this is and how strong and powerful it is. And being in the 11th house, it's a very gifted placement. It also kind of affects your, how you interact with others on a more public scale, your reputation. You could, I don't know, it could be good for, just having a good reputation, or being seen as someone who might be, you could be seen as being simultaneously fun and charismatic, but also respectable and dignified. I mean, so this is a really strong placement. And I haven't even mentioned how Venus is conjunct the Jupiter Saturn conjunction as well. Venus is in domicile and Taurus here. And so this becomes much more personal here. It's not just your reputation or your dreams or goals. It's also a lot of your romances, or your love life, or your approach to love and romance is involved in this as well. And so when you have romantic feelings for a person, or when you have desires at all, desire being represented by Venus will be colored by the energies of Jupiter and Saturn. So everything I just said about Jupiter and Saturn being conjunct in this area applies to um, your romantic life as well. So when you have feelings for someone, you can almost feel way over the top, like you feel so strongly and so enthusiastic and so excited for someone, but at the same exact time you're very grounded and very disciplined, because we're combining Jupiter and Saturn here. So you may have some big huge ideas for love, but they're actually realistic, and you'll actually be there in the long run. Especially with all this happening in Taurus, your romantic style and your approach in love is going to be, it's fixed earth, and so you're going to be very strong-willed in your relationships. You know what you want, you know who you are. You're not wanting to change for a person. You are who you are, and if other people like that, then cool. If not, whatever. If I'm not phrasing this very well, but hopefully that makes sense. You're very strong-willed, and so you don't change yourself for a person. I wouldn't see you as trying to, change yourself in order to impress someone else. You just are who you are romantically, and you feel like that's what you expect of others as well. And so this is, you almost feel very comfortable romantically. Let's see here, what else? If you're attracted to men, you'd be more into men who are airy. You don't have a lot of air planets. You do have Neptune and Uranus and Aquarius, but these are very outer planets. They don't so much affect you personally. I mean, they do, but it's subtle. But you do have Mars in Gemini, and then your Gemini rising as well. You do have your ascendant in air. So there's some air there. But really, you definitely be attracted to an airy type of person in relationships. I mean, there's multiple things. So your approach is earthy. So you're very grounded, very stable. You want to have a good time and want to have fun, but you're also very realistic and grounded and practical in your relationships. And you want someone who is a little bit, maybe a little bit more reckless or wild than yourself. You have your descendant in Sagittarius and your Mars in 12th house Gemini. And so, especially if you're attracted to men, you'd be attracted to men who are playful and outgoing, and kind of you want someone really fun. That's like the main thing. You want someone adventurous who can kind of maybe get you a tiny bit out of your comfort zone, who can take you on adventures, or I don't know, suggest fun things to do. You want someone very spontaneous and very playful and jovial, and someone who's kind of just up in the air, someone whimsical, maybe someone very funny would be attractive to you. We're combining Sagittarius descendant with Mars in Gemini, so someone very witty and funny, and I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyway, so let's cover more of the basics here. Let's go back to some of the basics that I skipped over before. You do have Sun in Taurus, Moon in Scorpio. Again, this is a full moon. And so, okay, so with this one, you do have so much energy in Taurus. You have those 4 planets there that we talked about, but then also including the Sun, Gemini rising, Scorpio moon. So on the outside, you are very stable, very grounded, very earthy. It's very, Taurian. So, I mean, Taurus is nice. Being a Taurus is nice because you're responsible and practical. You don't get carried away with your emotions. You're responsible, practical, you're pragmatic. But at the same time, Taurus is a very young sign, and so you're still easygoing enough and light enough or playful enough to be sociable and to want to have a good time. Taurus is nice like that. It's still responsible, but it's not as maybe cynical or antisocial as Virgo and Capricorn might be. So there's a nice balance there with all those Taurus energies, especially in the 11th house, which is very dignified. It's a very strong, easy house. So your sun, your ego will be in a sort of natural place. It's natural for you to talk to acquaintances or friends or neighbors. You're just kind of yourself in the world, and you're typically very likable. You get along with people easily. All that just kind of works well for you. Online activities, people like you online. They like you at work or at school. You're generally an easy person to get along with. But what a lot of people don't know is that underneath all of that I just described, you have this moon in Scorpio that's one of the few planets at the bottom of your chart. Only Moon and Pluto are below the horizon or not visible when you're born. So having the moon there, moon is in this very private, secluded place. It is in the 5th house, it can be a little bit more outgoing. But the moon is very different. The moon is in this other kind of obscure area. And so people might not realize that you have these kind of intense aspects of your personality. Like, you are very easygoing, but then people who know you better, like family or, really close friends, might know that you actually have a really intense side as well. You actually do have intense emotions underneath this kind of easygoing, calm exterior, if that makes sense. Because you do have that Scorpio moon, so you do actually feel very intensely about things, and people might not always initially realize that about you when they are first getting to know you. I'm also noticing you have South Node in 7th house Capricorn, and so it's almost like you have this sort of hidden aspect of yourself that's actually very serious. You seem kind of just playful and easygoing, easy to get to know, but then you do have a part of yourself that people might not always notice that is actually very serious and disciplined and a little bit intense. You have this kind of not so hidden intensity to your personality that I think it's not hidden per se, but it's just something that people wouldn't immediately notice. When people first get to know you, you're very easygoing, easy to get to know. You seem very straightforward. It's only when people get to know you a little bit more that they're like, oh, this person has layers. They're deep and they're actually pretty complex, and you can be very serious or very intense, for better or for worse. So that's kind of just an interesting layer, or you're multifaceted, especially for a Taurus sun, for that matter. Okay, but what else? Gemini rising. So Gemini rising means that you're sort of always thinking, and Gemini risings are especially with you have Mercury and Gemini as well. I just noticed I overlooked that before. So you're always thinking. You think a lot. You're always thinking, especially with Moon and Scorpio as well. You're probably very observant of other people. You're always wanting to figure people out. And me myself personally, so this is a bit subjective, but I'm actually Gemini rising, but I'm intimidated of other Gemini risings because you can tell that with Gemini risings, they're always thinking and they're always you. It's hard to tell what a Gemini rising is thinking because you can just tell that they're constantly observing and thinking, and even if they're talking, it's almost like they're never fully saying what's going on in their head. They're always, I don't know, you can just tell that they're thinking so fast, and there's something intimidating about that, in my opinion. So being a Gemini rising, you're probably very smart. You're quick at figuring things out, especially with Mercury and Gemini as well. You're always figuring people out and always thinking. But this means that you can be relatable, especially with your Taurus sun. Um, I don't think people would necessarily be intimidated by you. I think you would be easy to get to know and to get along with, especially with your midheaven in Pisces. You're generally very approachable. Let's see here, and you do have a lot of planets toward the top of the chart, so you're generally easy to understand. However, you do have Mercury in 12th house and Mars in 12th house as well in Gemini, and so that almost reminds me of your Scorpio moon because your Mercury and your moon are both a little bit hidden. So you have Mercury and Mars over, my mouse fell asleep, over here, and they are visible. They just rose above the eastern horizon when you were born, Mercury and Mars. But they're still in the 12th house. So 12th house is a sort of sleepy place. It's visible in the sky, but those planets haven't really woken up yet. It's like we're almost groggy when we're experiencing 12th house energies. And so these things are sort of hidden. 12th house is like the non-physical, or it's always hidden. And so what you fight for and your ambitions will be hidden, maybe even to you, especially at a young age. Same with your mentality and your intellect, how you think about things, your opinions. These things will all be obscured from view, especially from others, but even from yourself. These things take time to develop. Mercury and Mars. So let's see here. So I mean, I can't say exactly when these will develop, but it just takes time. These will always be growing your whole life, really. It will take time later before before your sort of intellectual capacity and your ambitions become fully prominent because they're working away in the background. The 12th house is your subconscious, sort of. It's almost like a window to your subconscious. So at a young age, you may not even be aware of this at all. You may not be aware of your own analytical and rational abilities. You may not be aware of your own ambitions or your own drives. But as you get a little older and become more self aware, especially your Gemini rising will help this. If you kind of analyze some of these areas of your own personality, you'll realize that these are actually very strong placements. They just need to be tapped into in a different way than perhaps other placements would. And so once you sort of tap into these slightly subconscious aspects of yourself with your intellect, your mind, your analytical ability, but also your drive and your passions, you'll realize that there's a lot of richness there, especially in 12th house Gemini. There's a lot of nuance there and attention to detail, and there's a lot of imagination. So you probably have a very vivid imagination between Mercury in 12th house Gemini and then Moon in Scorpio. Um, that's interesting. And with midheaven in Pisces and Saturn and Jupiter conjunct. So you have a very vivid imagination. You have a very vivid imagination. I almost feel like you have intense dreams, or you can, I don't know, you're very intuitive, and I hope you can learn to use that because that can be a blessing or a curse. It's a lot to deal with, and it's a lot of sort of subconscious things. And so if you don't understand these, especially at a young age, it can be very difficult and you can feel just crazy. You can feel totally crazy because you won't understand your own mind. But as you get a little older and you just sort of become more self-aware and learn to observe these things, observe yourself and your own mind, and sort of, analyze yourself, I think you will gain that self awareness, and then it will become a strength where you actually have this crazy intuitive abilities and imagination. So that can be really great. I mean, you can apply that however you want to. You can, I mean, you can have intuitive abilities, or you can, I don't know, you could be very creative or artistic, maybe. Let's see here. What else? Uranus and Neptune in 8th house Aquarius. Okay, I almost feel like with your beliefs that you may not really know what to believe. You may be a little bit agnostic, or I don't know exactly. I don't want to claim what you believe in, but you may just be kind of separate and detached from really strong, like religious beliefs or world beliefs. You may just be kind of an observer of things of that nature. Especially with Gemini rising, you're very curious and you just want to kind of learn and observe. But then Scorpio Moon, you do definitely feel passionate about things. It's just that, hmm, I don't know. It's interesting. There's kind of conflicting things in the chart. I just noticed you have no fire planets at all except for Pluto. So, I mean, it may be hard for you sometimes to be confident or to begin things, to initiate. With Gemini rising, you're sort of an observer. I think you like to observe better, and to um, you like to observe a person before you initiate with them or before you interact with them, because you're very much an observer. You can learn very much about a person without even interacting with them directly. So I don't know. I almost think you might be a little bit shy with Scorpio Moon, Gemini rising. Um, Taurus Sun can be. I mean, Taurus is confident in itself and it's very firm in its identity. But at the same time, it's a little bit easygoing, it's a little bit introverted, so it can kind of go either way. You can be charismatic, you can have sort of a charisma to you that is, it's more internal though. I don't think you're being, I don't see you as being a very overbearing person or very aggressive. To me, your chart looks introverted to me, to be honest. You do have that intense side of you in Scorpio with the moon in Scorpio. But to me, that would mostly come out with people that you already know and have observed, and people that have passed through your Gemini rising and Gemini Mercury that you've already observed and kind of noticed these patterns with them and sort of let them become close to you. Then they would be able to access your Scorpio moon and see this sort of intense side of yourself. But otherwise, I think acquaintances would just kind of see you as being easygoing and pleasant and like a nice person. Um, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I'm almost thinking that you might be shy, especially with South Node in 7th house. You're very focused on other people and other people's wants and needs, and just on observing other people. And I think eventually, as you mature, you will go more into your North Node in 1st house Cancer, where you'll focus more on your own emotions and also more on the water element. So I think your whole chart has this theme of starting out with not as much of self awareness in certain areas. I mean, just like we all do. But then as you mature, you're going to very much become a master of the sort of subconscious realms in your own personality, or, you'll be able to sort of channel these different energies or become very intuitive and pay attention to your feelings. I think there's a lot of richness in your emotions because it's because of your observational abilities. You're always observing and learning from everything. And so the emotions that you do feel are very rich because they're built on all these observations that you've made. And so I think especially as the more you mature in age and the more you learn to master your own subconscious and become self-aware, and especially when I combine this with the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, you have a lot of potential. I see you as starting out as an almost shy person, who might feel a little bit crazy or weird at times, but as you mature, you're going to gain this huge self awareness and you'll be able to very much be a very bold figure, I think, and have these big, bold dreams that you can. These dreams that you can just dream up and turn into real concrete goals that you can actually achieve in a very big way. I don't know. I just if I could sum up your chart in one word, it would be potential. Because I don't know. I think you have a lot of potential to do a lot of big things, and I don't know. I think it's almost destined. I don't think you have to necessarily work super hard or discipline yourself in order to achieve these kind of big dreams or goals. I think it's something that will happen naturally because you're naturally curious, you're naturally observing, and so you will naturally continue to learn and become self-aware. And once you do that, you will naturally start to unlock these intuitive abilities that comes from your the richness of your emotions and the intelligence that's in your emotions. So I'm ranting a little bit, but I hope that makes sense. I also see that as a child, you're very studious. You're very, I see you as being a good kid mostly. You do have the Scorpio Moon, which could be kind of unpredictable or could have like maybe outbursts, but you also have Virgo IC, and then you've got South Node in seventh house Capricorn. So I see you as being kind of a mild child. Um, being maybe well behaved. Taurus Sun, Gemini rising can be a little bit precarious or precocious, a little bit reckless, maybe. Or Gemini rising is very experimental. You want to just do things just to see what will happen because you're curious. And so, you're typically an observer, you're not overbearing, but at the same time, that can kind of get you into some interesting situations in no uncertain terms. But that's the gist of what I see. I think I've covered most of everything. You do have sort of a conjunction between Pluto, part of Fortune, and Chiron all in Sagittarius. Hmm, Chiron. I mean, these aren't super major. I don't talk about them a lot, really. You okay, well, I will say this part of your chart is very karmic. So you may have I don't see you as okay, let me think first. You do have descendant in Sagittarius. Okay. So you do have Sagittarius is a very karmic sign for you, even though you don't have your own natal planets in Sagittarius. You do have your descendant there, your Chiron, your part of Fortune, and your Pluto. And so Sagittarius people, I think, can be very instrumental in helping you learn things. I think you may have some Sagittariuses in your lives or people with Sagittarius in their charts who have a profound impact on you throughout your life and who you can learn from. You may also have a relationship with a Sagittarius since that's your descendant, and that would sort of fulfill the the desires of your 12th house Gemini moon as well to some extent. Let me see here. What else? Scorpio moon. There's sort of a conflict there because you are drawn to Sagittarius energies. You're attracted to Sagittarius, but you want someone also who's stable. You have Scorpio moon, and so you're very emotional, and you can have very intense emotions, and so you really want people in your life who you can trust, and that trust is very important to you, and you're very loyal once that trust is established. And so you are attracted to Sagittarian personalities, but Sagittarius is a very wild sign. It's sort of a party sign. It can be a lot of fun, but it can also be a bit reckless and out of control. And so I don't know that there's a conflict there because you're drawn to Sagittarius. There's something there that you need to learn from the Sagittarius energy. However, at the same time, you also crave stability, and stability is just something that Sagittarius doesn't have a whole lot of. And so there can be kind of some conflict there because you're simultaneously drawn to Sagittarius. It's a very karmic sign that can teach you a lot, but it's also somewhat against your own nature to some extent. Okay, Pisces midheaven. Let me see here. Pisces midheaven, I'll just say that you could do many different jobs throughout your life. You probably will have multiple careers in your life, and you're very approachable. People trust you, or um, yeah, people feel like they can just come up to you and talk to you, and like that you've already feel a little bit familiar to them. But at the same time, you do have that easygoing charisma about you. But with Scorpio Moon, people don't. It takes a lot for you to let people in. Scorpio Moon is very private, and so you may be easygoing, easy to get along with, but ultimately, only very few people truly know you because you are intense and you have intense emotions, and again, that trust and that loyalty is extremely important to you. Hopefully that makes sense. I think this is a good time to stop. If you have any specific questions, though, definitely you can email me at manic.mercurian@gmail.com. But I hope that resonated. You can also just let me know what made sense to you, what doesn't. I'm always open. I'm always learning myself. So, but hopefully that made sense for you. And thanks for watching, and thank you for the request. And I'll see you later.